because I feel like that's what happened in Buffalo. And they didn't want to wait for a Dan Quinn or an Adam Gase, as it were. So they just settled for Rex Ryan. They just grabbed him right away. And if you're a young coordinator, you're really put behind the eight ball of sorts, because teams don't want to wait, because that could also hinder what sort of assistants you get, the quality of assistant position coaches, coordinators as well. And I think that's a little unfair. I know it would be a little hard-pressed to put this off completely until after the Super Bowl, but because of Senior Bowl is going on right now, you want your scouting department in those positions, and the Combine is coming up on February 17th. That's a bit of a time crunch, and you want your staff in place to start the offseason running. But it is a little unfair for these coordinators who are presumably doing a great job so that their teams goes deep in the playoffs, and sometimes they miss out on head coaching jobs. Someone else who missed out on a head coaching job is Doug Marrone, and sorry, I just need to LOL Doug Marrone. And a couple weeks ago, he decided to take his $4 million to walk away from the Bills job. Still had 2 years remaining on his contract after 2 seasons with Buffalo, leading to a 9-7 record this year. Recently, got a job as offensive line and associate head coach in Jacksonville. And this after reports had said that he had been the front runner for the Jets job and been tied to a number of other jobs as well, including the 49ers opening. But Dougie, you gambled and you lost. It happened. And yeah, I'm in the camp that thinks it was smart that he took the $4 million that he's going to get no matter what. There's no offset language in that amount from the Bills. But also, he still had 2 years left on his deal, so that's $8 million that he left on the table. And there's only 32 jobs. And this just adds to the reputation that seems to be following you, that you're tough to work with, a little bit of a diva, no one particularly likes working for you. And now, when you're interviewing, what owner or GM is going to want a guy who just walked out on his team? And the way that you walked out on them, letting your players know via mass text after the news broke in the media, come on. So, $4 million obviously is not a dummy, and actually props to his agent, whoever negotiated that deal. But I would be surprised if Doug Marrone gets another head coaching opportunity, because he already has baggage on him. He is not going to be cheap, and who is going to want to hire this guy? Who's going to want? How are coordinators and assistants going to come and work for this guy? How is he going to inspire them? I don't know. And speaking of uninspiring, I am just killing it with these transitions today without Claire. Andy Dalton makes it to the Pro Bowl as the 7th Pro Bowl alternate. Say that out loud. Say it with me. Andy Dalton is a Pro Bowler after leading the Bengals to yet another one and done. He's now 0 for 3 in his career. 3,398 yards passing, 19 touchdowns, 17 picks, 83.5 quarterback rating, and is a Pro Bowler. Even though the Pro Bowl means absolutely nothing since so many people drop out. It's not in Hawaii anymore. It doesn't have the prestige as it once did, if it did have any prestige, even though it's a flag football game. But still, that just doesn't sound right, does it? And it almost seems like the movie She's All That, where they take the ugly girl at the high school and then turn her into the prom queen as a larf, as just kind of a LOL thing. This seems like that. Because Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, is not a Pro Bowler. Not even close to approaching a Pro Bowl level quarterback. But, what else? That's part of the game. Tom Brady, Russell Wilson dropped out. Joe Flacco spending time with his pregnant wife. Can't fault him there. And a number of other quarterbacks dropped out because of injury, notably Aaron Rodgers. But it is what it is. Drop a cliche. Andy Dalton is in the Pro Bowl. And speaking of another is what it is, Hope Solo suspended for 30 days from the U.S. women's national soccer team after being arrested with her husband, Jeremy Stevens, in a DUI situation. And they was driving a U.S. women's national team van during the arrest, which just adds insult to injury. And this punishment was a long time coming. Hope Solo and her husband there's always been a cloud of scumminess following them around. And Solo was arrested and charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of a 4th-degree assault in June. Allegedly had struck her sister and also her nephew, but those were dismissed this past week. Who knows why? Maybe someone got a little paid off because one of the 3 has deals with Nike, Gatorade, and EA Sports that the other 2 do not. So you're not going to hurt the moneymaker. Maybe someone got paid off. Maybe something actually did not really happen. I don't know. But Hope still has those deals with Nike, with Gatorade, with EA Sports. And also, speaking of her husband, domestic assault charge against him in November 2012. When he was then boyfriend Jeremy Stevens, charges were subsequently dropped, and they were married the next day, November 13th. How quaint, how just delightful for those 2. And I don't know. She just has this air of unlikability, and her husband as well. And she even dropped a "Don't you know who we are?" during the DUI arrest, which is hilarious. I think Jeremy Stevens, this 3rd DUI, at least 2nd. I know he had a couple as a player when he was playing for the Seahawks, but 30-day suspension when the World Cup is this summer seems like a major slap on the wrist. It seems like they had to give her something to know that her actions and the actions of people around her was not acceptable, but it just seems like a slap on the wrist. And not they probably have a couple friendlies coming up, but it doesn't seem like a tangible suspension at all. It doesn't seem like anything that's going to really hurt her. And like I said, still has all of her endorsement deals. And I talk about that because Adrian and that whole domestic violence case, Nike dropped him like a bad habit. And it is surprising that, not to diminish women's soccer, but it is more of a peripheral sport. And someone with a longer rap sheet than Adrian, still gets to keep her deal. Even though, yes, nothing formal was brought against her, and Adrian did, of course, plea out to the domestic violence charge. And I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a nice person, her and her husband as well, even though they do seem a little bit more likable than Kim Kardashian and Kanye West. Kimye. And bring on home with 2 stories about the what's the sport called with the round orange ball and then the orange rim? You kind of toss it at, what's that called? A basketball? A basketball? All right. But Kobe Bryant, torn rotator cuff, looks to be a season-ending injury. And in a year where the Lakers are on full tank mode, Kobe still has a couple years remaining on that monster contract he got for some reason. And I don't know, this coming off a torn Achilles last year, Lakers are now in absolute full tank mode. They're 12-31, 4th worst record in the NBA, only behind Philly, who's obviously been in tank mode, Knicks, who look like they're in tank mode, and my beloved Minnesota Timberwolves, who are probably trying. They're just really, really bad. Although Andrew Wiggins looks legit. But back on Kobe. These 2 season-ending injuries that they don't seem like freak injuries. They seem like old man injuries. The Achilles last year, and now the torn rotator cuff. And I don't know. This might be it for Kobe. I know that he'll probably come back next year just for the money. And he was a great player. He was probably one of my favorite players in the NBA. I followed the basketball a lot closer as a kid, rather as opposed to now, and even as a teenager. Him coming out and drafted by the Hornets, and I think he was on the Rosie O'Donnell show, or it might have been Oprah, where he was talking about going to prom with Brandy, and it was a cute story coming in, and young Kobe with the afro. Kobe with the afro. I loved his jump shot, and also those Adidas shoes. When he was first with Adidas, it wasn't always with Nike, but it was modeled after an Audi TT shoe. It was like white and clean lines, and it was just awesome looking shoes. Shoes I always wanted as a kid. Never got them, but yeah, but he was a guy that when I was playing basketball as a kid, I looked up to. And then that whole rape allegation thing in Colorado, and then buying the wife a $4 million purple diamond to say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, that whole deal. I don't know. Kind of taints his reputation a little bit, but it's kind of like the whole Roethlisberger thing is if you have a pall of scumminess hanging over you, if you just win, that will all go away. And seemingly that's how things operate in this country, right, wrong, or otherwise. And the thing with Hope Solo, if she plays well during the World Cup and the United States wins again, this whole scumminess cloud goes away too. So that's Kobe, and this might be the end of a great career. And if so, I respect everything that you did on the floor, even though you're kind of a bad teammate. You ran off Shaq, even though you guys could have won several more championships together. You ran off Paul Gasol, even though you guys could have won several more championships as well. And you just don't seem like that great of a teammate, but you were a hell of a player. And I'll always remember when you dropped 81 on the Raptors with Smush Parker on the team. Smush Parker. And speaking of records, Mike Krzyzewski, Duke basketball head coach, is closing in on 1,000 wins and will have an opportunity to do so Sunday at Madison Square Garden against St. John's. Currently on 999 wins going for 1K. And you got to respect what Coach Krzyzewski has done at Duke, before that at Army. And Duke was a joke of a basketball school before he got there, and now turned them into a perennial powerhouse. And you might not like their players. They might seem a little stuffy, a little haughty, a little arrogant, but you can't not like Coach K, right? And when I was following college basketball, it seems like everyone loved North Carolina. Dean Smith years. You had Anton Jamison, Maktar Njai. Yes, I dropped a Maktar Njai. Ed Cota. And I love those teams too, but Duke was bad. And I mean bad as a good back in the day. Like Trajan Langdon, Shane Battier, Elton Brand, those teams. They just destroyed people. And that I know lots of people don't like Duke because it's a private school and you tend to get more students, clientele there. But that home court, when they got the camera angle where it shows the Dukies like right on the floor, that is so awesome. I love that. And then players like, I'm just racking my brain now, Corey Maggette, Jay Williams, Chris Carrawell, J.J. Redick. I know that obviously no one likes him. Like the 17,000 Plumlee brothers, Jabari Parker, Austin Rivers. Who else? Grant Hill, obviously, Christian Laettner, Danny Ferry, I guess. And they had some great players and some great teams under Coach K. And love or hate Duke, please respect Coach K and the man himself. And especially what he's done with USA Basketball as well. It got them to completely turn around since the 2004 embarrassment in Athens. And I really hope he does get 1K, a national stage, Sunday, ESPN, St. John's, MSG, and no football this Sunday, so he'll have the big stage, and I hope he gets it done. He deserves it. And that's it. That is it for the Friday happy hour of the Claire-Vs-Carlson Show. No Claire, so it was just versus Carlson. And I hope it did okay. Mostly just talking to myself. And it's weird because I usually do this when I'm alone anyways. And sometimes there's not always a recording device on. But this is the conversations I usually have myself as I'm in my 8x8 concrete cell in between time in the exercise yard, 1 hour. 1 hour out in the yard, 23 in the cell. It happens. But have a great weekend, everyone. Claire will be back next week. She only has 2 shows remaining. It's so sad. We'll have our Super Bowl preview, and hopefully we'll be actually talking about football, and this whole Patriots nonsense will be behind us. But we're out of here. I'm at Andy Carlson Show on Twitter. The show is at Claire-Vs-Carlson Show, latenightsportsradio.com. Have a great night. Thank you for listening, and have an awesome week. Bye-bye.
The music was created and produced by Deeb. To hear more of his tracks, check out soundcloud.com/Deeb.
In my opinion, that sucked.